Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. It is July 15th, 2025. I have a very interesting story that I found today that I wanted to share with you all. And so we're going to go right into this article, and then I'm going to play just a short clip of the interview. I would assume if you want to see the interview, you probably have to go to RT's main channel or maybe Rick Sanchez's YouTube channel? Probably so. Okay, so American who spied on Ukrainian troops for Russia tells his story to RT. U.S.-born Daniel Martindale, who was granted Russian citizenship this week after secretly providing battlefield intelligence to Russian troops while embedded with Ukrainian forces, has shared his story with RT's Rick Sanchez. The 34-year-old said witnessing Kiev's military shelling residential areas in Donbass was the tipping point that led him to switch sides. Appearing on the latest episode of The Sanchez Effect, Martindale recounts that he began growing increasingly disillusioned with U.S. foreign policy years before the conflict between Ukraine and Russia broke out. At some point, an affinity for Russia began to grow in him. I've been on my journey to starting a new life in Russia since 2015, he said. In the run-up to the escalation of hostilities between Kiev and Moscow in February 2022, he remembered sensing that probably some kind of a war is about to start. With this conviction, he resolved to be with people who believe in the same things that I do, and set off for Ukraine, telling everyone he was going to serve as a Christian missionary there. Deep down, however, really I wanted to get home to Russia, he added. Despite already having pro-Russian sentiments, the decision to start covertly providing Russian forces with intelligence came to Martindale after he had seen in the news what the Ukrainians were doing to Russian cities, what they call separatist cities in the Donbass. According to Martindale, he initially offered his services to Russian troops via a telegram channel specifically designed for Ukrainian soldiers who wanted to surrender. His activities mostly consisted of sharing the positions of Ukrainian forces, as well as their routes and schedules. The American was eventually evacuated to Russian-controlled territory in the fall of 2024. Recalling his time near the front, he claimed that Ukrainian forces were routinely using civilians as human shields. Wow. Commenting on being granted Russian citizenship on Tuesday, Martindale gushed that it's something that I've wanted for 10 years, likening the experience to being born a second time. Wow. Okay, so here's this little part I'm going to play for you.
Did you decide you were not just going to think it, but you were going to act on it and help Russia?
You see, it wasn't really a decision that I made before I got to the front line, the war zone. Mm-hmm. It was a decision that came about from seeing in the news what the Ukrainians were doing to Russian cities, what they call separatist cities, mm-hmm. in the Donbass, and realizing that the people who are responsible for those civilian deaths and damage to the civilian infrastructure were all around me, and that the weapons that I saw being used around me that were pointed in that direction were responsible for that. And I understood that this is not a war between two governments who want that territory. This is a war between a police force, really, and some kind of a gang that's just interested in their own hatred of everything Russian.
Where were you at the time?
I was in Kurakhova, in Donetsk.
Donetsk. And what did you see?
Mostly I heard it. I did see it as well. But it was artillery, Ukrainian artillery, that was shelling the Textilsky region, mm-hmm. of Donetsk city, and also Petrovsk and Kiev region in Donetsk.
But they would argue, if they were here,
yeah,
we're only defending ourselves. After all, the Russians are attacking us. How would you respond?
I would say that that's a very typical Western interpretation of the events. But if you look at the details of how it actually started, you find that the first murders and all of the violence that was done that really started the conflict was done by Ukrainians in Kiev, in Odessa, in Mariupol, and in Slavyansk.
So once again, you're there and you're actually seeing the aggression on the part of the Ukrainians against civilians. I heard you saying.
I'm seeing a continuation of Ukraine's crimes that had been going on for 10 years, for 8 years before that. And I understand that if I have any possibility to try to stop these criminals and to help the rightful government that's trying to bring law and order back to this situation, I need to help the Russian side.
That's amazing. So you have this conviction. I understand it. Thank you for taking us there and helping us understand it. And now that conviction turns to action, and you say to yourself, I've got to do something to help the Russians defeat these sons of guns who are doing these horrible things that I see.
That's right.
How did you go about that?
By giving the positions of people and equipment that were responsible for the crimes that were being committed.
So you were telling the Russian military where their potential targets were.
That's right. What roads they used, at what times they were traveling through the places where I was at that time.
How did you do that?
I didn't learn to do it immediately, but after a few months in the region, I began to understand. I learned to know when it's a tank, how many. I learned to understand I learned to know the sound of just trucks, or if it's armored personnel carriers. So I understood. I was looking at the maps of where the battle is going on, and I understood where they were going, and so I tried to give them warning about.
Where were you physically when you were doing this, Daniel? Were you hiding under a bush in a tree? Did you make yourself invisible? How were you doing this?
Well, the equipment that I was seeing and listening to was loud enough that if you're within a half kilometer of it, you'll hear it. And a lot of that was happening right in the village where I was staying.
Okay, so you were just a resident of the village.
That's what it looked like.
Or pretending to be a resident of the village.
Right.
Where you were actually kind of, can I say, spying for the Russians?
Sure.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. What I found. So I'm gonna bring myself up here for just a minute. You could think the man is crazy for doing something like that. It's definitely risky. It was a very dangerous situation to do that. He could have been killed if he was moving around with the Ukrainian soldiers, and then this happens. I don't know. That's pretty scary for him, I would think. In any case, he obviously had a lot of conviction about this, as Rick said. My question is where it says this. With his conviction, he resolved to be with people who believe in the same things that I do. Okay, he's Christian, but what exactly is he meaning by that? People are believing the same things as I do. And I don't know if that's in the rest of the video or not. He says, there's more. I wanted to be with the people who understand Washington is the greatest evil. Okay, well, maybe that's what he's talking about. Let's see. I don't know. I guess that's more of a specific. I was thinking spiritually, but basically he's talking about people aware of the things, the evil things that Washington has been doing. That's the way that reads. I wanted to be with the people who understand Washington is the greatest evil. And at the beginning, he explained where he came to that point in his life, in his journey, which started basically at 9/11 and went forward from there. When he learned all the official story was a lie, you know, he mentioned Architects and Engineers website, so he believes that that our government has just been lying to its people, which, well, that's pretty true, isn't it? In any case, that's gutsy and risky, insane, or, you know, some people just go with their convictions, go with they're determined to do what they think is right. And he thinks this is right. And he's now living in Russia. And you know what? That's fine. Sometimes I wish I lived in Russia, but then again, you know, I don't know much about that other than it takes a lot to figure out how to get into Russia. I'd like to visit St. Petersburg, though. I think it's beautiful. I watched the videos with Alex Christoforou wandering around St. Petersburg, and I just think it's really a beautiful place. It's a very gorgeous architecture. In any case, he was right when he said that there was a bunch of hatred at that time. He had said that there was a lot of hatred of Russia then, because remember, at the beginning of the invasion, the 2022, I don't really consider. I mean, yes, you invaded, you went into someone's land, but this was in response to, 8 years of bombing of the citizens in Donbass and the other areas that he mentioned. So it was prevalent then. It was very overt at that time. Very anti-Russia, hatred, and of course, America has always been anti-Russia, for, ever since I was a kid, ever since, the Cold War, and ever since World War II ended, basically, we went against Russia for some odd reason. And I think it had to do with power, trying to beat them in the space race, I remember that craziness. So, Star Wars, as they called it when Reagan was in. So, in any case, I do think that was happening in 2022 because they were removing Russian literature from, the places in Ukraine, like, bookstores and I think schools and libraries or whatever. They just were getting rid of all these wonderful books. You're talking about literature like Dostoevsky and Chekhov and all that. It's crazy. And it's not even in the era when all this is happening. These writers were around centuries ago, not exactly now. So in any case, I just wanted to share that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you find that kind of... I mean, he isn't considered a traitor to the U.S. because he wasn't giving secrets to Russia about the U.S. So he's not doing treason or anything, but he's just joined into this war in a way, giving these secrets of where these people were located, the Ukrainian soldiers. Sure, share your thoughts on this. I found it very amazing story. In any case, I don't know. That guy seems... I don't know what's going on, but wow. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like, you could subscribe to my channel on YouTube and if you want to. And also, if you like my videos, you can give me a like and share my videos if you feel that there's anything to share. That's up to you. I thank so much for all of your support, all your kind and interesting comments that I've been reading. Really appreciate it. What your opinion, when you share your opinions, they mean something to me. It's not just, people talking. I actually read it and think about what you said. Thanks so much, and I'll be back later.